and let us all do we can to build a better future.
But today I am hopping mad, and I'm not necessarily saying that in good fun or good humor. I learned today that there has been a massive purge over at YouTube, and specifically one of those targets was the Ron Paul Institute, which has been they've lost their channel. They've actually lost their channel from what I'm able to tell, and there is no appeal. They're saying that there has been no warning, and I believe them. We know that great friend of the show, Ron Placone, who has really helped us out. He's been a great guy, and really one of the most likable and affable people on there. I mean, he's got a cat as a co-host. He's been locked out of his channel. And of course, our very dear friend, Nico House, has also been put under a 2-week suspension. We're at the point now where it's very obvious as to what's going on. What used to be back in the day, that great frontier of free speech where anybody with what we called back then a webcam could get onto YouTube and create content and speak their mind and share their truth and share their talents and their abilities and their interests. Yeah, that was absolutely going on a decade ago. And it was going on not so long ago, and it really gave our free speech protections in the United States and in many other countries around the world that have a free press. It gave that teeth, but that is no longer the case. Now, make no mistake, YouTube, private company, that has become the media medium of choice for many people. And as a result, media habits have evolved and changed and adapted when it comes to how people get their news, how they get their information. And in fact, whole business models, new business models, have been created around the availability of YouTube. But the downside to this is that as a private corporation, as a private platform, there is little to no accountability because it is not a public utility. It is not regulated by the FCC the way, say, television and broadcast mediums are. Even when it comes down to the free press, going back to the notion of the printing press, which, by the way, sparked a revolution, a cultural revolution. The fact that you had a post office that was delivering your press in many instances. You have the post office and they have their standards for when they'll cut something off or not, and those standards are really limited. Same thing with the FCC, but YouTube controls it all. They are the platform, they are the publisher, they are the editorial committee, they are the ombudsman, and they are regulated unto themselves. And so at this point, Dr. Ron Paul, who I do, the funny thing is I voted for him when I was 18. It was my first election that I could vote in, and I voted for Dr. Ron Paul because I was a libertarian back then, and as many of you know, I still hold to some, not all, but some of those ideals. And I will say this, I think that the man's extreme form of libertarianism, he's been hoisted by his own petard in this particular case, because he does not have the kind of protections that he would have if, say, he owned his own television or radio station. But at the same time, we here at Hardlands Media believe strongly in transparency and in fairness, and we believe that he has been treated poorly. His Ron Paul Institute has been treated poorly. We believe that our friends, Ron Placone, I should say, and Nico House have been treated poorly. And of course, we have had to change our own operations in accordance with the fact that you have an institution, a media institution here that has no accountability and that is not even obligated to tell its own talent, from which it is making money, what they are doing wrong before cutting off their livelihoods and their ability to reach others. I would like to remind everybody here that we are here, frankly, at the pleasure of the various platforms that we use. We are working to move toward having our own radio station, and we are making those efforts, and I'll talk about that later. Also, this evening, we're going to have our first Patreon show after my show here at Civically Minded. We hope that those of you who are Patreon supporters, our patrons, if you would join us, I'll be talking more about what I'm doing, but I will say this. I'm urging you to go over to Odyssey and go over to Rockfin and check into us and subscribe to us on those channels. I am urging you to go to our social media accounts. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. Subscribe to those and follow us there. We don't do a huge amount, but if something happens to this channel on YouTube, we want to be able to get that information over to you. You can also go to 99 Perspectives TV. That is our parent website, our parent company, and updates will be placed there. Also, you can go to Live 365 and check out World Perspectives Radio Chicago. That is what is going to be our internet stream for our radio station. We are starting alpha testing now, but these are ways that you can stay in touch with us here at Hard Lens Media, regardless of what happens to us during this purge. I've said enough. I got a full show for you all today, but first we need to thank our supporters. Kit, can you do that for us?
No problem. First, let me give a shout out to our wonderful Patreon supporters. Again, Patreon supporters, look, I know I'm saying help us out with the studio, help us out with the radio station, but also by being a Patreon supporter, you're also ensuring Hard Lens Media's survivability on YouTube, or at least if in case anything does happen, we're at least able to still function on Odyssey and Rockfin as well.
And just to say on that specifically, like we talk more in generalities than we should. Patreon is for Hard Lens Media. It is not for the radio station. Yeah. It is not for 99 Perspectives. It is only for Hard Lens Media. It's the thing that's keeping us going right now. It used to be, we were really proud that we were getting to a point where like Patreon was like about a third of what was operating to run Hard Lens Media. At this point, it's like 60 or 70% of running our Hard Lens on YouTube and in general. So if we're ever in a spot where YouTube knocks down this channel, we need Patreon to be on other places.
If you support independent media and the work that we do here at Hard Lens Media, we'll greatly appreciate your support. Shout out to RJL, Jimmy Royal, Jay Lynch, Hoot Hoot Burns, Brett Brandy, Evan Carlos, Gren Hua, Artemis LA, Michael Swinsky, Steve Fergie, Noise, First Name, Fingerman, Colin Hutchinson, Joel Cowell, Brett Norm, Roger Holden, Rem Richards, Cosmo Beager, Jasmine Lorza, Doris Fillin, Stephen G, Peter Zedek, JJ Stinkman, Leanne Sylvia Ross, Robert Nash, James Brannett, Robert Getza, Big Papa Ken, Stephen Deckel, Pauline Pavan, Andre Hernandez, Dan Schaffer, Shannon Hickel, Dana Cooper, Lois Loki Ventura, Jose Rec, and Rose Dunn. Thank you so much for being Patreon supporters. Again, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, that link is in the description box below. What's happening on YouTube is very real, and there is a potential of what's happening to Ron Pacone, Nico House, and so many of our other fellow colleagues could happen to Hard Lens Media. By being a Patreon supporter, you're helping support Chicago's independent media network, and that is Hard Lens Media. And we need your help now more than ever because it's getting very serious, and all hands on deck. And be sure to subscribe to us on Odyssey and Rockfin. Zapping.